She said no, and you finally walked away. That's when her silence broke, and suddenly she came back. Most people misunderstand this moment. They think it's luck, timing, fate, or worse, that she suddenly realized your worth. But the truth is more uncomfortable than that, and more powerful. What actually happened had nothing to do with convincing her, chasing her, or proving yourself. It happened because something inside her psychological frame shifted the moment you stopped trying to enter it. Here's the truth most people never tell you. Rejection is rarely about you being inadequate. It's about perceived emotional safety and perceived value, and those two things live in tension. When you were available, explaining yourself, hoping, waiting, trying to be chosen, you unknowingly collapsed that tension. You became predictable, safe in the wrong way, and desire does not grow in predictability. It withers there. When someone rejects you, they are not closing a door forever. They are testing a boundary, often unconsciously. They are asking a silent question. What happens if I walk away? Most people fail this test without ever knowing it existed. They panic, they overtext, they negotiate attraction, they perform kindness like a transaction, and in doing so, they confirm the very reason they were rejected. But when you didn't chase, when you didn't argue, beg, or linger, you did something rare. You created absence, and absence is not emptiness. Absence is a mirror. In that mirror, she began to see herself without the validation you were providing. The emotional gravity you once gave freely was suddenly gone, and the human mind does not register value when it's constant. It only recognizes value when it's at risk of being lost. This isn't cruelty, it's psychology. Another truth that's hard to hear. Attraction is not built on effort alone, it's built on contrast. When you were present, you were one option among many stimuli in her life. When you left with dignity, you became a contrast, someone who could have stayed but didn't need to. That shift repositions you from seeking approval to self-directed. And self-direction is magnetic. This is why she comes back with confusion in her voice, with curiosity disguised as casual messages, with checking in. She's not coming back because she suddenly changed her standards. She's coming back because you changed the emotional equation. The rejection once placed her above you. Your calm withdrawal restored balance and sometimes even reversed it. Understand this deeply. People don't return because they miss you. They return because they miss how they felt around you, and they only feel that once it's gone. You didn't manipulate that feeling. You respected yourself enough not to chase it. And here's the part most never master. This only works when it's real. Not when you disappear as a tactic. Not when you're waiting in silence, hoping. It works when you actually redirect your energy, your focus, your purpose, your self-respect away from someone who chose not to choose you. Because the moment you stop chasing validation, you stop being someone who can be easily rejected. When she comes back, it rarely looks dramatic. There's no apology parade, no grand confession. It's subtle, a message that feels light but lands heavy, a question that doesn't need asking, a memory resurfaced by accident. This is where most people misunderstand what's really happening, and either lose their power again or misread the moment completely. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When she returns, she's not always coming back to you. She's coming back to check something inside herself. Human beings are wired to avoid loss more than they seek gain. When she rejected you, her nervous system categorized you as something already resolved, safe to let go of. But when you didn't chase, didn't collapse, didn't orbit her life hoping for scraps of attention, you disrupted that categorization. Suddenly, you were no longer resolved. You became an open loop in her mind. Open loops are dangerous to the psyche. They create mental noise, curiosity, restlessness. That's why she starts thinking about moments she dismissed before, conversations she didn't fully feel at the time, the version of you she might have misjudged, not because you changed overnight, but because distance gave her a new perspective. Another truth most won't tell you: rejection often happens when someone senses emotional availability without emotional grounding. You may have been kind, attentive, present, but your center of gravity was tilted toward her approval. When you walked away and didn't look back, that gravity shifted back into yourself, and that shift is felt even in silence. This is why she comes back with mixed signals. Warm one moment, distant the next. She's trying to resolve an internal conflict. Was I wrong about him, or do I just miss the comfort of his presence? And here's where your response determines everything. If you rush in emotionally the moment she reappears, you answer her question for her, and not in your favor. You tell her that nothing actually changed, that your self-respect was temporary, that she can step in and out of your life without consequence. Attraction collapses again, often faster than before. But if you stay grounded, calm, present, but not over-invested, you create a new experience. One she hasn't had with you. One where you're open, but not chasing. Interested, but not attached to an outcome. This forces her to meet you at a higher emotional level or retreat, and understand this clearly. Not every return is meant to be accepted. Some people come back because they're lonely. Some because their other options fell through. Some because they miss being desired, not because they desire you. Your job is not to prove yourself again. Your job is to observe. Watch her consistency. Watch her effort. Watch whether her words align with her actions. Someone who truly comes back with clarity doesn't create confusion. They don't breadcrumb. They don't keep you in emotional limbo. They move forward with intention. The deepest power you can develop is this: the ability to let someone return without losing yourself again, to remain centered even when old emotions resurface, to choose from abundance, not fear of loss. Because the real transformation isn't that she came back, it's that you no longer need her to. Here's the part almost no one prepares you for. The moment she comes back is not the victory, it's the test. Up until now, your growth happened in her absence, in silence, in restraint, in the quiet rebuilding of your self-respect. But when she re-enters your life, she brings with her the old emotional gravity, the version of you she once rejected, and the version of you that no longer exists. And the real question becomes, which version will you choose to be now? Most people relapse here. They hear the message, see the name pop up, feel that familiar rush in the chest, and without realizing it, they shrink themselves to fit the old dynamic. They over-explain, they overgive, they try to do it right this time, and in doing so, they unknowingly teach her that nothing fundamentally changed, only the pause. But psychological attraction is not rebuilt through correction. It's rebuilt through identity. When she comes back and you are calmer, slower, less reactive, she feels it immediately. When you're no longer trying to extract reassurance from her tone or her timing, she senses that too. This isn't something you say, it's something you are, and it creates a quiet pressure inside her. Why does he feel different? That pressure forces honesty to either rise or retreat. Here's a hard truth many don't want to accept. Some people reject you not because you're unworthy, but because you were emotionally available in a world addicted to stimulation. When you step back, redirect your focus, and stop making someone the emotional center of your life, you become rare. Not because you withdrew love, but because you stopped leaking it without direction. This is why confidence after rejection feels different than confidence before it. Before, it was performative. Now, it's rooted. You no longer need to be chosen to feel solid. And paradoxically, that's when people start choosing you. When she comes back, she may test you subtly, delayed replies, emotional ambiguity, nostalgia without commitment. These aren't games as much as they are probes. She's trying to see if she still has access to the old version of you. If you passively allow that access, the cycle repeats. But if you maintain boundaries without coldness, if you stay warm without being available on demand, you introduce a new relational frame. One where connection is mutual, not assumed. One where effort is shared, not one-sided. And here's the quiet power move. You don't punish her for leaving. You don't bring up the rejection to seek closure or validation. You let your standards speak through your behavior. You show her that access to you now requires presence, clarity, and respect. At this stage, something profound happens. She either leans in because she recognizes growth and emotional strength, or she fades out again because she was never prepared to meet you at this level. And either outcome is a win, because you are no longer trying to be chosen by someone who once walked away. You are choosing whether they still fit the life you're building. That's not arrogance. That's self-mastery. Here's the final truth, and it's the one that changes everything if you let it sink in. The reason women come back after rejecting you has less to do with them and everything to do with who you became in their absence. Rejection is not the wound. The wound is what happens when you abandon yourself trying to undo it. But when you don't, when you let the rejection complete its lesson instead of fighting it, you evolve, quietly, irreversibly. And that evolution is what people feel when they return. By the time she comes back, you're no longer operating from the same internal hunger. You've learned how to sit with discomfort without reaching for validation. You've learned that desire can exist without pursuit. You've learned that being wanted is not the same as being respected. And most importantly, you've learned that your worth does not rise or fall based on someone else's readiness to see it. This is why the dynamic can never truly go back to how it was. Even if the connection rekindles, the power structure has shifted. You're no longer trying to earn a place in her world. You're evaluating whether she belongs in yours. And that subtle shift, felt more than spoken, is what creates real attraction, not anxiety-driven attachment. Some people think the goal is to get her back, but that's a shallow win. The deeper victory is becoming someone who doesn't need to replay the same emotional patterns to feel alive. Someone who can walk away not because they're hurt, but because they're clear. When women come back after rejection, it often happens at the exact moment you stop centering them in your emotional universe. When your life becomes fuller, when your attention becomes selective, when your presence is no longer guaranteed, not because you're playing games, but because you finally understand your own value. And here's the paradox most never grasp. The healthiest relationships don't begin with chasing. They begin with mutual curiosity, aligned effort, and emotional stability. If someone can only desire you when you're distant, they may be responding to the loss of validation, not the connection itself. And having the clarity to recognize that is emotional maturity. So if she comes back, don't ask yourself, how do I keep her? Ask yourself, is this aligned with who I am now? That question alone protects you from repeating cycles that once drained you. It keeps you from shrinking yourself to be palatable. It ensures that whoever stays does so, not because you waited, but because they chose you, clearly and consistently. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to live in a way that makes alignment obvious and misalignment uncomfortable. And when you reach that place, something powerful happens. Rejection loses its sting. Returns lose their control. And you stop measuring your life by who comes back and start measuring it by who can stay. Now let me ask you something personal, and answer honestly in the comments. If the person who once rejected you came back today, would they be meeting a stronger version of you, or the same one they walked away from? If this video gave you clarity, like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this right now.